home? I said, no, and I drove home. And I called my wife, and I said, I can't believe I just did that. She's like, well, what were you thinking? Again, it may sound self-serving or whatever, but I was thinking about the people in my office. And one girl in particular I thought of first. I'm like, she's going to lose her job. Guaranteed. And it's not why Bill Gaff. It is about making money. We want to make money. We want to grow. I'm not saying I'm a saint, and the company needs to make money to support itself, but it doesn't have to be all about that.
All right. Wow. Welcome to I guess it would be the third episode of American Legacy. And the goal of this show is to tell the stories about entrepreneurship and the lessons, the challenges that people go through when they're trying to build something big. And I think, a lot of times people don't necessarily understand what they're getting themselves into. And it's nice to be able to hopefully allow people to avoid certain challenges. Because I think what's great about being a human is that you don't have to touch the stove to know it's burned. If you're wise enough to listen to someone or follow a recipe, then I think you can accelerate your ability to succeed. So thanks for coming. I also wanted to thank our first sponsor, First National Bank, for supporting us in our vision to, expose some of these stories to people in North America. And I think that that's what USA is built on. I mean, we have ingenuity, we have the ability to do stuff that other countries perhaps don't have the luxury of having the freedom to do. So anyway, today we have a special guest, Burnie Gaff. Burnie Gaff. Burnie, I know a little bit about you just from being local, but you run a $20 million a year revenue company called Gaftek. Love to know more about that. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And so the first thing I always like to start maybe a little bit about your childhood. It looks like you grew up in Bucksport without running water, heating, wood stove.
I did, yes.
And tell me a little bit about that and how it shaped your life.
All right, well, just backcheck a little more than 20 million, but I won't go into the numbers with our company, so I don't want to sell ourselves short. No, I grew up in Bucksport, Maine, not too far from here, a mill town, and grew up, honestly, probably aged myself. You've seen the Waltons. We grew up as a version of the Waltons. There was Model A's and Model T's running around with my grandparents. And we didn't have a lot back then. Didn't really, not having running water or telephone, or to make sure the wood stove was full. Otherwise, you're going to be cold in the morning. That was just normal life. We were happy. I had a good dad who took care of me. And it was no problem being poor. My mom hates it when I say that, but we were, Mom.
Right.
But
yeah.
But I didn't really realize there was anything different until probably high school. Then girlfriends, cars. All of a sudden, I wanted nicer things. Being from Bucksport with the mill, parents worked in the mill. Not always, but for the most part, had nicer things. Maybe four-wheelers and toys. If you didn't work, if your parents didn't work in the mill, maybe it was more sparse. And so at an early age, I learned if I wanted certain things, I had to work for them. I had mowed lawns, had a lawn mowing business, raked blueberries every summer. School clothes.
I think everyone should have to rake blueberries. I did that for a summer, and that is a good eye opener to what not to want to do for the rest of your life.
Absolutely, it's the hardest job I think I've ever done.
It is for sure. That roofing.
That and roofing, yes, yes. But just did all those jobs and just worked hard and bought my first car and just put myself through high school. And if I wanted something nice, I went and worked for it. I also worked at a Tozer's Market in Bucksport. Probably familiar with Tozer's. Worked there for 4 or 5 years, cutting meat, deli, everything in the store. So yeah, so I grew up in Bucksport. I had a good high school career. Was pretty much average in high school, sports and school, and decided when I graduated, I really didn't want to do the 4-year thing. So I figured I wanted to trade. I wanted something that I could fall back on. So at the time, EMBTI, which is now Community College, had an electrical program. So I decided to go there, the 2-year program. And my goal was to leave the program, get a job at the mill, become an E&I technician, happily ever after. Wouldn't you know it, when I went into the college, the acceptance rate for students was 100%. Graduated college, mill's pretty in that 2-year span. So life throws a curve at you. I did end up getting a job out of college. I was the only one in my class to get it. Irritated my classmates because, again, I was kind of middle of the pack guy. I wasn't the best student or best lab guy or the best anything, but yeah, I worked harder for the job. I remember Bob Rizzatello, the guy who hired me at the first job. We all applied. I called, asked what was going on. He upped it, not yet. I called again. Then the next day I went and I visited, opened, and I thought it was just normal. And I walked in to his office, and he looked at me and goes, "Why do you keep bothering me? I'm curious about the job." He goes, "Well, it's yours. You're the only one that's called, the only one that's visited."
What a great, I mean, listen, I mean, that's like lesson number one. I mean, and what's so interesting about your story, just even that, it's like, you know, when you're in these mill towns, like I'm from St. John, New Brunswick, so I have a mill town, but same thing. I went to trade school, wanted to become an E&I tech. I thought that would be a way to make 6 figures. I mean, if you're making 6 figures, I was like, holy crap, like you're in the union. So it's just funny that you say that, you know, going to trade school and right out of high school, and that it's interesting. But yeah, I mean, even just that, I mean, nowadays it's like, being proactive and taking the bull by the horns, and being aggressive with what you want. And in that case, it just showed like that you got the job, and it wasn't because of your grades. It was because you went in and asked the questions and made the effort to go and talk to the guy. So, yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. And so one of the things, so when you got out of E&I school and you got that one job, how long did you end up working in that space?
A bit. They're in refrigeration space, and I worked all over the Northeast, New York, and Staten Island. Got a lot of experience, but they laid everybody off when didn't have the money. Company go. And a position opened up for a company called CE Petroserve. That's where the gas pumps come. So whole group applied. It's the same job. Me and a couple other guys got the jobs. And what I found was that was probably 1991 to 92. So in the gas pump world, the oil and gas world, they were going from the old mechanical pumps. You swing the big handle and the meters roll, but the mechanical meters roll back and the thing shakes and you pump your gas, to a 6-hose MPD unit with electronic displays. So me coming out of E&I school, I had industrial electronics. I knew triax, diax, I knew what the stuff was in that pump. So perfect time for me to hit the industry. I knew how to fix it. I would run over to ICC North in the industrial park in Bangor. I'd pick up a little chip, triac or a diac, go solder it into the pump, and people just thought I was magic.
Witchcraft.
It was, because they're used to showing up with a crescent wrench, a screwdriver, and a hammer to change a belt or a mechanical piece of equipment. And so I kind of excelled in the industry quickly. Just grew up fast. My company I was with, CE Petroservice, they were growing, and eventually they wanted to open an office in New Hampshire. So they asked everybody, does somebody want to go to New Hampshire and open this new office? Move. Raised my hand and said, I'll go. Yeah. So I opened their office in Concord, New Hampshire. That office ended up 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 employees. And sales. Was a service based, or did you? We were service based, but we had a sales department, and I really wasn't really involved in sales. I was more with service, but we supported sales. And with our service, we sales. We had no salespeople down there. Sold plenty. Yeah. So again, I built that business from the start. It took me about a year to get it really going. And the funny story I don't tell many people, but I guess I'll tell it here. Everybody's old enough now or out of the industry. But what accelerated me to start my own company, I really wasn't interested in having my own business. My wife and I, we bought a triplex. We had 2 people paying our rent. So we were going to buy apartment houses. That was pretty handy in fixing stuff. And that was our job, was going to support our habit of buying apartment houses. That was kind of our plan. Extra money, retirement account. And that was the plan. Get ahead. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So we had our first one. Yep. Things are going great. And as the business grew in New Hampshire, we had a girl working in the office. She was my age, 25, 26 at the time. And she wasn't working out. She was a great person. She's sure she's good at what she does today, but in that role, just wasn't working. So I contacted my boss up here, who was my age now. So he's in his 50s, 5. And I called him on a Friday. I said, I'm going to let this person go. I'll be right down. I'll see you Monday. Don't do anything. Okay, no problem. I can handle it, but if you want to come down, that's fine. So Monday, I'm at the Concord Holiday Inn bar. I really don't drink. I've had a diet. I'm sure I had a Diet Coke or Diet Pepsi back then. I don't really drink that much. And he proceeded to tell me that he moved in with this girl. They have an apartment. They're going to get married, and on and on and on and on. And I know the guy's wife, and lives up in. Yeah. Okay. So as a 25-year-old service manager of this new branch, I just told my boss I was going to fire his girl. I went home that night and I told my wife, I said, I'm going to give my notice. It's a bad position. Something that I just can't do it. There's just too many problems. I gave my notice the next day. They let me work out 4 days. I went to Merchants out on Hooksett, bought an old Dodge van and started fixing gas pumps. How it all started.
So that was the catalyst to move forward, based on the fact that you felt the right decision was to get rid of this woman, and unfortunately the owner had other plans, or the manager had other plans for that, and wanted to step in and kibosh your plan, and you're like, I don't think so.
It was just a little too awkward, and my wife had a great job at a bank.
Okay, and so you had a little flexibility to be able to.
We weren't. It was risky, and it was a jump. It was a jump, but it wasn't. We weren't going to starve.
Okay. And then so you end up, so when that happens, which again, sometimes like we don't even know, like sometimes these little glitches seem like challenges, like, okay, I gotta leave this comfortable setting to go to this unknown, right? It was your first big decision of, okay, I'm going to buy this van, go around. I know how to service these pumps. I know there's demand. You start there. And then that was the start of Gaftek, or was that like, or did you call it something different at that time?
That was the start of Gaftek.
Okay, so Gaftek was a van and you servicing pumps.
Yeah. Plain electrician.
Yeah. Not on a totally side note, but in those the new pumps, they had like Coriolis mass flow meters in there. Is that how do they measure the, not to go in a, okay.
So there's 4 pistons in a pump and it spins. It's really, the meters have been around since 60s, 50s or 60s. They're old, but they work and they're listed. Yep, that's all they are. For a while, they tried, not to get off topic again, but F-16 fighters used a certain pitot tube, a spinny meter, I don't know what it's called. I forget the name of the meter. And some companies tried to utilize that. So it's basically a tube, very sensitive spinning wheel. Yeah, and that kind of worked, but those phased out. They're still back to the ball. You know, and being an E&I technician, fuel doesn't conduct electricity. That's the problem. Like you can use mag flow meters.
Mag flow meters are the most common, right? And they're very accurate, but right, I gotcha. Okay, interesting. So you had this van. So, and then tell me a little bit about like the process to go from a van to hiring people and funding and did you have kids at the time?
I didn't have kids at the time.
Okay, so this is you and your wife,
which was perfect.
Right.
If I'd had kids at the time, probably wouldn't be sitting here. Okay. I think it would have been too hard to have at least small kids. Older kids are different.
Yeah.
Having small kids would have been really a challenge because I worked.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to work.
You're on the road, like
30, 40.
You got it. Yeah. Okay.
I've done that. Done 38 hours straight.
That's insane.
That's probably my record. I think other guys have a bigger record. Today, if I did today what I used to do, I would get brought up. There's rules against what I used to do.
I got it.
But I worked really hard.
Yeah.
And my wife,
Right.
she was the back office for me,
Yeah.
which
Okay.
was fantastic. I mean,
Yeah.
that was a huge. People don't understand. When they look at Gaftek, they look at me,
Yeah.
at Burnie Gaff,
Right.
but they don't realize my wife is equally part of this, because she was in the background, always making sure the billings, the receivables, the payables, and her being in banking, we kind of knew how to navigate the bank better.
Yeah.
We were able to.
She knew that space, right?
Right, if you needed a line of credit or a term note
100%.
or something, so it allowed me to go build.
Right.
I didn't have to
Exactly.
worry about that.
And to leverage your strengths. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
She was a huge part of the rest of the company. Still is. She's
Yeah.
still involved with the ESOP governance and
Okay.
all that.
So it's an employee stock ownership.
We are.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. ESOP.
Yep.
So you got this thing. You're building. You're spending. Who knows how many hours at the startup phase of this company, because. Tell me a little bit about the mindset. I mean, at this point, failure is not an option, because you just left this thing, you got this van, you've invested some money to start this venture up. And tell me a little bit about the growth and some of the challenges and things that you had to kind of go through.
Well, my brother Eric, he works for us today, actually. He works up in the Bangor office in construction. He would come down, sleep on my couch, and we would go wiring jobs or fix things. And after a while, now there's some argument in the company who was the first employee. Eric says it was him, and Rick says it was. So Rick was the first official employee to come on pay. So I met him, called me, and I was busy. But Rick was the first. Now I've got to make payroll. Now I've got insurance issues. Now I've got to buy vehicles. He came to me. We met at Exeter, New Hampshire, I think. And if you know me, yeah, it is. And he wanted to meet with me. He met. He says, "Look, I want to come to work for you." I'm like, okay. Like, when? He's like, "Now. I quit." I was like, okay. And we figured it out. And so then employees, and he worked really hard with us as well. And he worked the crazy hours I worked. Then just people started coming on board. One of the things when I started the company, and it's hard to maintain this, but we work really hard to. That would be perfect at being a technician, manager for different companies, corporations. Right. I didn't want our company to be so corporate. Now, people would argue we're bigger than we are corporate, and I get that, but it sounds cliche or corny, but it is about people. You need the people to operate the company, and we have arguably the best people in the region for sure. We attract good people. They just started coming on board. We built it and built it. We got to probably 24, 26 people.
Okay.
At that point, it got difficult.
Yes,
it was
right.
At that point, I was chief cook, bottle washer. I'm
100%.
Managing everything. I'm fixing everything. I'm doing everything.
You're the hirer. You're the firer. You're the
yeah. So at that point, the company got really hard. We had to make some tough decisions. We kind of shrunk a little. Once we had more place,
right, and the right people in the right locations. Yeah,
and I became more seasoned as an entrepreneur, and just things grew and grew. So it just over time, as we built the business, I always found holes in what we were doing. We didn't install tanks at first, so we'd have people help us do that. They would fail. They wouldn't do a good job. They wouldn't meet our standards.
So you're subbing out these services or these, and then all of a sudden your quality is down because you're okay.
And I got to look at my client who we're doing tons of service for in other areas and say, yeah, this one's, and it would cost us lots of money, so we'd fix it. Yeah.
That's interesting because one of the things that's interesting. Well, two things interesting, but the fact that like when you say like you want a family-owned business, you want it to feel family-owned, you want people that are working for you to know that I give a shit, I care about you, I care about your future. I'm not just in this for the bottom dollar, right? And then I think there is a bit of a misbelief, if you will, that when you get to a certain size, it has to go based on it has to go corporate, it has to go all processes and systems. Yes, you need processes and systems to scale, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to take your eye off the prize of prioritizing your people. I mean, the company I worked for in Boston, they did a really good job, engineering firm, but I feel like, they were at about 100 million when I left, but it still felt like, they cared about you as an employee. And I think it's hard to do, but it doesn't mean that if your intention's not there.
It is hard to do, and it's not perfect, and sometimes we're good at it, sometimes we're not. But I will say, right now our industry is being hammered really hard by private equity. They're buying up a lot of companies, and they've been after us, and they've been after it. We're very hard to buy because we're an ESOP. And one of the reasons we made the ESOP was to kind of not be sold. One of the problems I had in 2016 and 2017 is the company was doing very well. It was growing. We were building 7 or 8 gas stations at a time, just the rocket ship. The company was growing. And I started getting offers. I got one offer from a billionaire, say who it is, but I actually did the whole check slide across the table.
Oh, wow.
Old
school.
Yeah.
Are you sure you don't want to sell? Let me take a look at what's inside.
He had a whole bunch of people in the room, all his cronies, and they figured what they thought it was, and they slid it. And I looked at it, I'm like, I drove home. I said no, and I drove home. And I called my wife. I said, I can't believe I just did that. She's like, well, what were you thinking? Again, it may sound self-serving or whatever, but I was thinking about the people in my office. I had one girl in particular I thought at first, I'm like, she's going to lose her job. Guaranteed. And it's not why built Gaff. It is about making money. We want to make money. We want to grow. I'm not saying I'm a saint, and the company needs to make money to support itself, but it doesn't have to be all about that. And if I sold it to that person, it would have been cut. Yeah. Build, and it would have just and I see it with private equity. I see the competitors that have been bought, and what they process. Yeah, and it's we try to be real lenient on time off and giving people their time. They get their birthday off. Anybody at Gaftek gets their birthday off. It's something we've always done, and we try to be flexible. And again, not perfect, but we do care. Yeah. Even if it doesn't seem like at times, we really do. With the ESOP, it protects that mindset as well.
It really does. I mean, I think how actually, I'm always curious because our company went to ESOP too, but I was wondering, like, because I think there's exit strategies are important with companies, but ESOP, employee stock ownership, when you have that as a means of ownership, not only as a person working for the company, you feel like not only am I an employee, but I literally own a part of this company. How did it impact growth for you, or profitability, or did you see any of that when you transitioned?
Not as much as you think. Okay. I mean, it did impact growth and profitability. We don't pay taxes. ESOP doesn't pay taxes until shares are paid out. So with an ESOP, you can grow faster, because your return on investment's faster because you're not paying those taxes. So it's a great vehicle for that. It's a great vehicle for growth and stability. Went through COVID, and so with all the stuff that happened there, it just really made our company super solid. We did excel through COVID. But employees' mindsets, a lot of them get it. Some don't. If you're younger, you think about when you're younger, and people, at one point we had less than 50% buy into the 401k. And that's free money. So and I understand where they're coming from. People, they're living within their means, and they want it now. They don't want it. So it does help, but it's not as flashy and sexy as they would sell it to you. But it is a great vehicle. I love it. I think that someday some people who may not appreciate it as much will look at that check and go, oh, that's all right.
It changes quick. The thing is, like, in 10 years, what you feel like is insignificant contributions into your little ESOP locker, if you will, it becomes a substantial number. And then certainly if the company's growing, making acquisitions, and then you get the share price evaluated again, and you see like a 25% jump in share price in 1 year, I mean, you can make some there's some large changes that can happen. One of the things that I had on here is like, there was another big moving piece for you when it's like, when did the Wayne Service Center, like after chasing for 20 years, I don't know what what is that, and what you acquired it, I assume, or at some point, or
That was kind of a big win for us this year or last year.
Okay.
So in the oil and gas industry, you have Gilbarco and Wayne, pretty much Ford and Chevy.
okay,
It's a good correlation. And they're the two big boys in the world that sell gas pumps. They've been around, I think Gilbarco's been around 100 years.
mm-hmm.
And if you go to a gas station, you fill your car up, you can look for the label. It will be a Wayne or a Gilbarco for the most part. Very rarely will you see something different. We've always been the Gilbarco guy. And we've had their service center. We've been servicing them. That was a big deal for us when we first got going.
When you sign that contract,
When we
'cause it's
signed that
anyone
contract.
that needs service on this gas pump needs to go to Gaftek. That's our
Exactly.
guy.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah. So we got that about 3 years into the business.
Yep.
Gilbarco took a leap with us. We were new. We were growing. They knew me. They knew how hard we worked. And we've serviced them, I think, masterfully over the last however many years. But Wayne,
Nice partnership.
it has been a very good partnership. But Wayne's looked at us kind of as a competitor. They've had a good relationship with their service companies. They've been several companies in since I've been going that have grown through it. But as of late, as larger companies kind of go, used to be you picked one or the other and went with it. Now companies are blending more, and we've got some buy-ins for some big companies. And the cool thing is we have the people now in place. We have excellent technicians that understand Wayne. We have good managers that are involved with it. So we are really poised to help them as well. It's been
Right.
going well.
Mm-hmm.
It hasn't hurt Gilbarco. I think it's been positive for Wayne. And I think, it's been very good for us.
Solid
So
win-win.
we're excited about that. Yeah.
That's really exciting.
Yeah.
So now, and in terms of like, when you make this type of a partnership, like a big, because if you have if you have Ford and Chevy, and you were the service rep for Ford, and now you're like, you know what, hey, you guys have a great team, you deliver on your services. Now you're going to service Chevy across North America, or whatever region. I don't know. I assume there's regions that you. Okay, so you have a specific region. Well, how did that impact your revenue? Like, are we talking? Is that like a 2% increase? Is it a 5%? Do you have to staff up? And how do you look at that? And how do you plan for that?
We've already staffed up a little bit. And one of the things that was nice about this coming on board is I didn't have to do it. I was involved a little bit, but it was done by the people in the company. So they performed masterfully, and it just worked out very well. So staff is difficult. We're trying to find new people, and it allowed us. We've got some people looking at right now to add to the team, and it's percentage-wise. I have to do the math quick in my head, but it's a few points for sure just with service. Yeah, and service is great because it's recurring. It's constant.
100%.
It never.
Right. Yeah. Interesting. Now, so when is it that when in this whole like process or journey did you start having kids? Because one of the things that at least from my perspective, when you build something like significant, right? Yeah. And you have a team. What's your team now? How many people you have in the company? You have over 100 staff, 100 families relying on you. And like you said, when you're starting up in the van, you're doing, you'll do 38 hours in a row. You'll be on the road. You're staying at hotels. Like when did kids enter into the equation? And then were there struggles and challenges, and what was it like for you in that environment?
So the kids come around in 2008. So the company would have been roughly 10 years old. And so by that time, I moved back to Maine. So we started the company in New Hampshire. I moved back to Maine. We opened up an office in Bangor, Perry Road. And I don't remodel actually, we were still in Bucksport. We were in Millville back then at my grandmother's house, of all places. I bought my grandmother's house and put up a garage, and that was our office for quite a few years. We added to it. Eventually, we bought the place on Perry Road. When the kids come around, I had a great team. I had a executive team was starting to be built, so I had somebody in charge of service, somebody in charge of construction. Amy was the CFO, but we brought in a CFO that's been with us ever since. Is excellent, excellent. The first CFO that understands the field and is good with the field operations, because there's always that give and take, or it always just is, and very good with that. So he kind of stepped in and let Amy sort of step back a little bit. So we were able to manage that pretty well. The crazy days of the growth and the building were kind of behind us.
Right.
So it was more maintaining and building. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. It's just, it's interesting. Like, you know, you want to have it all, you know, you want to have like, you know, loving family, a wife that supports you. Sounds like that's been the case for you, been behind you the whole time, and certainly instrumental in growing the business, really. So, you know, what was there any like? What are the challenges like working together as husband? Because you know, here you are working together, but you're also, because at least I found in, you know, we've had, it's been a lot of work around communication, be able to, you know, have separate roles, responsibilities that don't overlap when you're trying to go out on a date, and you know your business partners as well. Like, tell me a little bit about that experience for you.
How do I not put myself in trouble here?
That's right. I'm gonna tee you up and
Yeah, it's actually sounds simple, but fight and make up quick. We're going to argue. We're going to fight, but get over it fast.
Right.
And we do.
That's great.
It's we've had some good ones, obviously, being married.
Yeah.
I've been married for 35 years. Yeah, been married a long time. I met her in high school, so we've dated since high school. So we're those people. And yeah, we've had struggles over the years, and we get through it, and we just make up quick, and we don't hold animosity. And she always had her role, I had my role, and she's really good at what she does, and I think I'm decent at what I do.
Right.
And we do overlap, and we do struggle at times.
Yep.
But it
but just about, you know, say what you need to say, and then get over it, and make the adjustments where necessary. I mean, I think that's a good lesson. And you know, I think you're prone to have these hard discussions. I mean, regardless. I think one of the things in, you know, you're married and you got lots going on and you're trying to build big shit, and you know, I think the longer you avoid hard conversations that you know you should be having, the harder it gets. Like, you kick a can down the road long enough, and it doesn't get smaller. The problem gets bigger and bigger, and then when you actually finally do, there's all these other issues surrounding it. But
absolutely.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
One of the things that was interesting when I was reading a little bit about, so you invested in this. It was an automation software you were working on, because software like, or like was it like a CRM, or, and then you spent what, 3 years kind of developing, working on implementing this thing. What was the catalyst for starting the software? And then, you know, tell me a little bit about why you decided to.
One of the growth, as you grow a business, you start looking at software, and you look at your software, it's kind of clunky and doesn't do what you want to do. So we reached out to the world, and so this seems like a decent software. It's very expensive. I think it was $250,000.
Yeah.
And
like project management software, or
just
was it
back
like
office accounting with project management and a service-based module. And the current software we have works. It's clunky, but it works. And everybody would love it to do something different. So we brought this new software on board thinking it would do something different. And we put a whole crew together, had a whole team building it, putting it in place. And I talk about my failures, and I always say failure is not an option, it's a requirement. It is. And this was one of those failures we had where the day it was supposed to go live, I'm sitting in the conference room with the whole team. It's up on the screen. I started asking some pertinent questions about service and this and this and this. Well, it doesn't do that, and you got to work around this. It doesn't do this. It doesn't do that. It was more heavily towards probably construction and less towards service. And I just couldn't pull the trigger. It's like, it's no better than what we have. It's just weighted one direction. And we had that meeting, and I said, yeah, we're not going to do this. It was the day turning it on. And my team just looked at me, kidding me, right? I'm like,
Are you effing serious right now?
Yeah, I didn't do it.
And I mean, the vendor thinking, and the vendor's probably like, okay, what did they?
We still own it.
Oh, I suppose.
We still have it. That was probably 10 years ago, 15 years
Okay.
ago. We still have it.
Oh my
We still have the
gosh,
rights to it.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's Timberline. It's, I don't know if you ever heard of
No,
it. It's
no.
a common software out there for construction.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So-
We've looked at it again, and there's some nice, cool, pretty looking softwares out there, but the cost and the benefit, I just don't. We'll eventually upgrade to something.
Right.
but-
When there's something that actually makes sense. This thing didn't make sense. What a tough decision, though.
Because-
But I think to your point, like the two things. Number one, I think a good takeaway is failure is not an option. I mean, the reality is if you're going down a path of entrepreneurship and you think you're not gonna come against obstacles and you're not gonna fail or attempt something that doesn't go your way, or you're not gonna come against something that you don't know how to solve, like it's not possible. Whether it's hiring someone, finding the financing, figuring out how to do cash flow management in the early stages when you have payroll and people are expecting you to cut checks and you don't have any money in the bank. There's a lot of shit that people don't understand and then the perseverance. I think one of the perseverance is something that if you're entering into entrepreneurship, you have to have perseverance and you have to have belief that you can figure out a way.
Yeah, looking back on, we've made every payroll in the history of the company. Never missed a payroll. Only asterisk because the payroll company messed it up one day. But we've never missed payroll as a company. I'm proud of that. It's something I knew we couldn't do. That was because, caring about our people, the last thing you do as a company is not pay somebody. I've been through that. I've lived that. That's the last thing we can. Christmas bonuses, it's a struggle at times. Nobody knows this, but years ago, my wife and I, we wrote 6-figure checks to cover Christmas bonuses. It's like, great, we don't have it, but we're going to figure it out, or take a loan, or there's a lot of things that people never see or never know they're just, you don't need to share all that with people. They need to go out there and focus on their jobs and what they're doing. They don't need to understand that, we're struggling here, we're working hard to fix things, and we're just going to take care of it.
And there's a weight with that. There's a weight that comes along with that too. I mean, because it's like when it can be a lonely place running a business because questions are coming at you, things are coming at you, and with that you have to make all these decisions in the best of your capabilities and with some sort of guiding principle at the back of it, like. In your case, like employee number one, we live with integrity. We do what we say and we say what we do. If we break something, we fix it. It's on us. That's how you build a long-term sustaining company. When you say failure is not an option, it's a requirement. What's the story of the crane and shoring failure and what it taught you about leadership under pressure? I read a little bit about that.
Probably the most exciting, I'll say it's exciting, but it wasn't at the time. When I say failure is not an option, it's a requirement. When you fail, that's when everybody sees you. We've got people fixing gas pumps right now as we speak. They're changing nozzles, hoses, filters, boards. We have people building stuff in Maine. There's stuff going on all of this company, and I don't know about any of it unless I have a big failure. And it's the same thing when we're building our business. When you fail, you get seen, and how you react. I learned early on, you can actually showcase yourself to the client. You can show the customers who you really are. You can really perform. Instead of getting mad and angry and screaming and hollering and just woe is me and the sky's falling, do just the opposite. You stand up, you lead, you fix it, and you move on. We had a Warner, New Hampshire, this was quite a few years. And when you're installing gas tanks, they're big fiberglass tanks. They're massive. They're 10 feet tall and 30 feet, 40 feet long. And they're like a big egg. They're really dainty. Yeah. Okay. They're perfectly solid and under pressure and all the loads and the way they're designed, but they're like an egg. If you don't treat them right, they break. So when you install these tanks, I won't get into like the shoring packages. When you drive on the highway, you see the big steel sheets driven in the ground, that's shoring. And to hold back those sheets, we use something called a whaler. And some of those whalers are as big as this table. They're beams, 2 foot by 2 foot, 18-inch beams. And they weigh 10,000, 8,000, 12,000 pounds a piece. It's 4 of them all pinned together with these big pins the size of a coffee cup. these massive pins, and they got to come out. And at the time, we had a guy named Bruce, was a crane guy. We don't use Bruce anymore. He had a big old 120 ton crane. And he got the idea because it'd take us a day to dismantle these beams.
Mm-hmm.
Sheets are all pulled out. It's just pea stone and the tops of the tank sticking out. And these big beams laying. And he had the idea, let's pick the whole thing up with my big crane, because he has a big crane. Yes, in place, set it over here, and then he can take it apart at your leisure. I'm thinking, great idea. Sounds good to me.
Right.
So he hooks it up, and I'll blame myself, because if it's my fault, I can fix it. And so it's my fault. I didn't check the rigging. I'm not a rigger, but I know better. But anybody who knows anything about OSHA, it's a 60-degree rigger's angle. Some call it 30, depending on how you measure it. A 60-degree angle. He had it probably way out here. The amount of stress he was putting on those beams in as he picked up 30,000-pound load, he got it 10, 50 in the air and it come apart. So I had 4, 12, 8, 10, 12,000-pound beams all headed for the tank, sticking in the ground, sticking out. It looked like Superman's house up in the cold with all the ice shards.
Yeah.
That's what it looked like. And they're just going everywhere. And he's got the crane. A crane guy, when they fail, they want it in the air. That's safety.
I got you.
And he's got it in the air. So I'm screaming at the guy to stop. And the client was on site. And we finally got everything to stop. I needed everything to stop, and it did. And the client, Tom McLean, super good guy. He worked with Irving for years and years. And he just looked at me. I looked at him. He goes, "You got this?" I'm like, "I do." He's like, "Okay," and he left.
He trusted the relationship. He's like, I know that doesn't look good.
Yeah.
That just cost several hundreds of thousands of dollars, or at least a very expensive mistake.
If we we didn't hit a tank. If we hit a tank, it would have been a $250,000 problem. We missed one tank by inches. But then we had all the steel just sitting there. It took us a couple of days to dismantle it and get it. But we fixed it. We put the things back when Tom showed up next time. Everything was on and tested and proper, and that was that. Not an issue. We wrote a briefing on, a near miss, how we don't do this again with a rigger's angle, and just we'll never do that again. This is why it failed, and crane guy's not a crane guy anymore, and just.
Yeah, so you make the modifications based on something like that. You identify it, fix what you can. I mean, I think that's, again, kind of some of your philosophies are interesting, because it's like success kind of leaves clues. And it's like when you have this situation when you're, building something sustainable, you're going to fail, but then you identify the failure, you come clean, you own it. And then you figure out, okay, what adjustments do I need to make so that I don't have to repeat this failure over again in the future? But
with success leaving clues, failure, that leaves a roadmap.
It does. You're right.
So, and everybody sees it.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah. And I know that you guys have built such a great reputation for doing things right, and essentially even just based on that story alone. But like, how do you maintain that standard when, doing something cheaper and faster is always a little bit tempting, because that means more profit, right?
Yep.
So
we're not cheaper. Sometimes we're faster, I think, but we're definitely not cheaper. We're not overly priced. We're not way out there. But I find what I found over the years is when somebody has a problem, they've got 2 or 3 numbers they can call to get service. But if it's a big problem, they're calling our number for the most part. And we've had a lot of clients go away from us and come back. And some come back with trepidation, like, "Geez, will you take me back?" I'm like, "Why wouldn't we take you back? We loved you when you were a client. We love you that you're back." It's not, we're not, "Oh, you stop working with us now, we're not going to service you." We take care of all of our clients.
Yeah, you're always doors open. You can come back anytime. Yeah. Try some other stuff. If you think it's better out there, go for it. And if you come back, great. Yeah. We're happy for that too.
If you need cheaper, you need cheaper. I get it. We're okay with that. There's plenty of work. There's endless amounts of work.
So, and then we talked before about the fact that, when you're running a business and, you know what you know, right? You're like, and through trial and error, you obviously expand your knowledge and your experience set. But at the same time, like I mentioned earlier on, I mean, to accelerate your growth or to accelerate your ability to achieve more without going through the trial and error method, who do you use? I know, like, we talked a little bit about Warrior, which is like a group for men entrepreneurs. We go out, we head out to California. We learn how to, uncover some of the like roadblocks in our mentality and our mindset, some of the beliefs, some of the, the negative stories that circle in all of our heads. Whether you're successful or not, you always have this like voice in the back of your head saying, you can't do that. You can't build that. You're not going to be able to accomplish that. Who are you to think that you can get this done? And so how do you like surround yourself, or what possessed you, or what was the catalyst for you to go to Warrior and find mentors to help you accelerate your life?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It's funny you and I share the war experience, because that was an incredible experience. They did a great job with that. And before that, even I did some Tony Robbins stuff. I know people rah go Tony Robbins, but he has a lot of good information and good information. But constant learning. They do say success leaves clues. So I would immerse myself with Tony Robbins, with Warrior, with Satema, and what he was doing, and I've got relationships I built from that. We still have groups that we speak on with businesses and, acquaintances, or just brothers that we talk all the time about business. But we used Howard Hayden. He was one of our business. He come in and did some stuff with the company. Fred West. I mean, it's constant learning, and I'm not afraid to put myself in a position to learn, even if it's running up inside a mountainside and getting in a ring of boxing with people. It was about business and learning, and developing myself as a leader or a business owner, entrepreneur. It's constant. Books. I say I read a lot, but I actually consume a lot, because I drive a lot and travel a lot. Books on tape, audio books. It's Audible. It's constant. I listen to the radio now and then. I drive my kids crazy, because I will drive with my family in silence, and they just like, "What is wrong with Dad?" Is he's thinking. But when I'm alone, I listen to an audio, something, and just podcast, anything I can find to consume. And if it's really good audiobook, I'll buy the book and read it and note it, and put that into my practice. And you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
No, I think, I mean, if you're able to like, I think what you just indicated is kind of something that I feel like has been part of the success that I've had, is like a constant need to seek out more information. Like, I'm always yearning to learn more. I want to learn more. I want to understand more. But even more importantly, I want to understand me more. I want to understand, okay, what makes me tick? What are the strengths and weaknesses that I have inherently? Because we all have these like unique gifts that sometimes we put some of that stuff on the shelf, and we'll end up doing stuff that we don't really like doing. It's not our forte. It's not what we were meant to be doing. And then instead we hire out the stuff that we're really, really good at and we love doing, instead of the opposite. Why don't you do but you can only do that when you understand where your strengths are. If you don't understand it, then it's hard to make those decisions. It's like anything. It's like, how do I know what to adjust in my company if I don't have data and analytics to say, shit, man, we're losing money on these jobs. We need to change the price points. Or why are we using 2 cranes when we could use 1? It's so, like, as you've kind of gone through this process, how do you kind of evaluate? It sounds like, learning, reading, constant yearning for growth. What goes in the mind, what you're feeding the mind. So like, as it relates to that, like, again, is there anything else you would suggest to do if you're kind of heading down this path? What would you,
Definitely find some mentors or somebody you can speak with, somebody that doesn't have any skin in the game. You need people that you can say things to that is not going to hurt you. As far as your numbers or your business strategy, or you can't, like, if you're an auto dealership, you can't have 5 mentors in the auto dealership. I mean, they can mentor you, but can you really be open and honest with them? So I have a group of men that from Warrior.
Okay, that's awesome.
That
you still get
we're
together?
still on Voxer.
Are you really?
Yeah,
Good for
and
you.
we talk. We're on there all the time, just talking about this and strategies, and one guy's acquiring this, and one guy's selling this, and one guy's buying that, and just even family stuff. Talking about family. Right. It sounds silly, but it's almost a safe place to talk about things that they have no skin in the game with me. They're not in my business. They're not even close to me. They're just brothers that I've learned to
to be able to share and communicate and openly and have truthful conversations. One of the things that I think is valuable, again, I think this is really, really important in that what you just indicated. So when you're, if you're in the car dealership and you have your own executive team is the only people that are advising and talking and bouncing ideas off of, there is obviously some sort of a potential bias there because they work with you all the time. I don't want to maybe bring up something that's a little bit controversial and so when you have someone from the outside that you can be honest about their business with them and they can appreciate it and understand it, but it's about speaking truth to them. Have you considered this? And I mean, this doesn't look good from my perspective. Right. Oh, okay. Because I would never get that information inside the fence.
Yeah, they can call bullshit.
They can call bullshit on you.
Yeah, most people can't do that with you.
Yeah.
Because there's
a good lesson.
Yeah.
No, that's very good. And one of the things that was interesting for me too, when I was like, you spoke about wanting to emulate your grandfather, who was known for being just a really, really nice guy. And how do you balance being? Again, this is a challenge too, as a leader. Is like, how do you balance being the nice guy when you have a bunch of tough decisions around running a company? I mean, if someone's underperforming, and if you want to be the nice guy and, sometimes you allow them in your organization as a toxic member for longer than, I know I've been guilty of that. So what are your thoughts on that? Like what's,
well, with my grandfather, it was, I grew up, again, the version of the Waltons, and he was a pivotal figure in my youth or my growth as a child. He was always around, and I always hung around him, and I always split his wood in the summer for him. And he was artistic, and we would do things together, and I'd help him with whatever I could do. And when anybody talked about my grandfather, he's always the nicest guy in the world. Always the nicest guy in the world. Now, I watched him get taken advantage of, too. Some land deals back then that were a little sketchy, and I watched him almost too nice. But I always wanted to be, I just want to be like him, just be a nice guy. And it is hard in business. When you're letting somebody go, you don't feel like the nice guy. But I will say, I think everybody I've ever let go, both parties have been better off. They've always moved on. So you can almost, I won't say justify it, but by keeping them, you're not being the nice guy. You're not being nice to your company. And we have policies and things in place that may not seem nice, but again, I'll go back to caring. We do care about everybody at this company. We want to be nice to people. And I think, and I will go to the end of my business days believing this, I think it separates us from everybody else. Because most people aren't nice. They have this mentality, you've got to be shrewd and tough and step on people and do all these things. I don't think you have to. And maybe I will make less money in my lifetime, but I'm okay with that.
No, I have kind of the same mindset. I mean, I'd rather take a lot longer building something that I'm proud of, that I did it in the right way and I didn't step on people or sacrifice my integrity to get there, versus build something fast, quick, big, and realize that I did some pretty shady shit to do it. So I appreciate that. What has entrepreneurship cost you personally, and what has it given you in return?
I don't think it's cost me a lot personally because I like what I do. But it has cost me probably some fun. I probably didn't hang out with the boys as much as I should, or my youth didn't play a lot like a lot of people do, but I'm not sure that cost me anything. Thankfully, my kids came late, so it didn't cost me the time when they were young. So I don't think it's cost me a lot. I enjoy what I do. Okay. It's cost me the stress of, having to deal with people and letting people go and seeing people leave and hiring the wrong people. And that's call. I always feel, I do. I feel bad when it doesn't work out or something hasn't been positive. And that's a cost to me, just a weight on my shoulders, I guess. But the benefits have certainly outweighed the costs. It's allowed me to grow. It's allowed me to do a lot of things in my life. And I also get to benefit. I see the company, now that it's an ESOP, I get to see it grow. We've grown 6,000% since the inception, our share price. We started almost as penny stock, but it's a cool number. It's a real number. Yeah, we've grown 6,000%. We're not making people millionaires yet, But we'll give it time, and it should work out and be very positive. And I'm kind of, as I look to the next 6 or 10 years of my career, I get to see, where's this going to go? What direction am I going to push it in? Who's going to take it?
Who's going to step up and start to do different things? Because I was going to say, one of the things that you're at the place where you're at, like 6 to 10 years. I mean, thinking about like what that would look like long term, the legacy of Gaftek once you decide to step away, and an exit strategy for you. An ESOP obviously is a great way to slowly allow the current employees to take ownership of the company. But how do you kind of prepare or develop inside leadership for your company so that you have a chance to move on after your...
Yeah, we're definitely be inside leadership. I think the oil and gas industry is pretty niche, and to bring somebody from the outside in is tough. I've watched other companies do that, and it hasn't necessarily worked well. So we have people in the company now that will grow and be propelled into these positions. And the cool thing about growth in a company and positions changing creates a vacuum. So as people
Right.
move, people have to fill. And it's one of the greatest things about Gaftek is the growth we've experienced has allowed people to grow into positions that are good for them.
That's good, because I guess because the other side of it is that, like we talked about before, if there is opportunity to accelerate and move up in a company, you as an individual have to grow. You have to grow in your skill sets. You have to grow in your capabilities. You have to grow in your ability to communicate, to understand concepts, to learn new software. So you have to increase your share price, which I think not only does it pay off for you as an individual, for your own sense of happiness and worth and contribution, but I think it translates back to your home life too. I mean, you become a better leader, a better man, a better communicator, and that I would say, like, what you do, what you learn in one place, you can that translates to your ability to have a better conversation with your wife, to be better, well defined in your expectations or your agreements with her and your kids and so forth. So I think it's pretty cool that that you've been able to grow the company and allow and people from the inside to accelerate. One of the things that's so interesting now that I'm curious as to, I mean, you're in the kind of the tech space. There's mechanical stuff. There's It's like got kind of construction tech, because there's a lot of advancements going on and all kinds of that stuff. But like inside of that, like do you see like AI influencing Gaftek in any way? And if so, how?
I'm sort of the guy that takes the lead on that stuff. So I'm looking at AI. I use Chat GPT, use Grok, use them both. I just want to use them to see what they are and see what they do. And they help me draft letters and draft emails. And it's very interesting. There's definitely a shortcut. If you're looking at a project and need to do some math, you can take a picture of it and it will do the math for you. It needs to be checked, but it makes me a little more efficient. So we're not sure how we want to try to integrate it with the company yet. I don't think it's going to be hugely impactful to us at this point. I think down the road, it's the gas pumps are going to get smarter, and they're going to tell us what's wrong with them.
As you're traveling, you got your little check-in card that says, okay, yeah, pump A in New Hampshire's got this. I get an alert on my phone. Yeah.
The amount of gas pumps, the amount of gas stations, I think everybody that would hear this is in the industry. I think our careers are pretty safe. Everybody talks about the AI accelerating it at this pace and this and that. I know, but they still haven't built a robot that's going to go jackhammer up a concrete pad and do the work that needs to be done. And
you're in kind of a safe space. I was thinking AI can do a lot, and I think to your point, I mean, there's a lot of efficiency that you can get from prompting, and I mean, you can do some repeatable tasks a lot easier with it. But AI can't run a crane and take tanks out of the ground, and AI can't run cables at a gas pump, and AI can't do any of those trades-based activities. But yeah, I guess, if you could think of like 60 seconds or whatever, some sort of unsexy truth of entrepreneurship, what would you say? Because I mean, yes, you have like this, multi-million-dollar company you run. You have 106 staff. You you know, you've been that's been able to provide you a level of financial freedom that you would not have gotten had you been an E&I tech at the paper mill in Bucksport.
Correct.
So
Yes.
with that, those are some of the upsides. Number one, you've built that. You have this the ability to do things that others wouldn't be able to do because of the things that you've sacrificed to get what you have today. But what's the unsexy stuff? What's the stuff that ain't so pretty?
Just the daily is I talk about this in Warrior, you know, hitting singles. If you're on a baseball team, the clubs that hit singles are the more successful. They make the playoffs. They make the runs. So every day, it's mundane hitting singles. The guys in the field are every day, they're going out and they're fixing gas pumps. Construction guys are putting. I do what I do every day, but you've got to do it consistently every day. Can't stop. And that's where a lot of entrepreneurs fail, is they get to a point, they've got some money in their pocket, and it's like, I'm going to go buy a boat and play on the lake this weekend. Just stop hitting singles.
Right.
And it's not sexy. You see the social media and the YouTube and Instagram, you see all the influencers and they're doing all this sexy stuff. And I know some of them, they work really hard. They hit singles. They don't show it with what they're doing. They're trying to present some fantastic lifestyle, but they're working hard, hit singles, and they're constantly at never not.
That's good. I like that because I think that's, you know, if you think about just the daily habits that, to your point, unsexy, and the fact that, you know, it can be boring and mundane, and doing the boring, mundane things when you're motivated. I would say like the motivated thing, like when you're motivated to go to the gym and at 6 a.m. When you know your mind's saying, yeah, you worked out yesterday, take the day off. It's like when you just have this pattern of doing boring, mundane shit over and over again, that's when you can get big results. And if you do it for long periods of time, over and over and over again, and that's essentially what you're saying. It's a formula that works for you. And
yeah, the stuff you see online, it's not. Yeah, that's the formula.
Well, one last question I try and finish with is, so what do you want to be remembered for? Like when this is all said and done and you're sitting on the rocking chair in Cayman Islands overlooking your sailboat, what do you want to be remembered for?
It's gonna be a powerboat, but
okay.
No, it probably sounds pretty basic, but I remember for being just a good business person who was fair to everybody. And we did a lot to protect the environment in the Northeast. We're a good, clean company. We do it right. But honestly, Bernie was a nice guy.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate your time. It was awesome talking to you, and you've done some incredible stuff. And thanks for sharing all of these things and lessons. And I will say, like, you know, some of these principles that, you know, if you can take out some of these nuggets and implement them in your own life, like do boring stuff over and over again, that works.
It does.
You know, evaluate what's working, what's not working, cut out the not working stuff,
Yeah.
replace those habits with things, read stuff that is going to accelerate your knowledge.
Yeah.
And then just keep taking small little steps forward and rise. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Bernie.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Nice to see you.
Nice
Yes.
to see you too.
All right.
Thank you for watching and listening in. American Legacy is a production of Perfect Fit USA. Copyright 2025 by Perfect Fit USA. To learn more about Perfect Fit and the Perfect Fit family of companies, please visit perfectfitusa.com.